Thank you, everyone, for attending today. I call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, to our April 3rd, 2025 Human Relations Commission. I will now ask the Principal Management Analyst to take attendance by roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Lester. Here. Commissioner McDonald. Here. Commissioner Smith. Here. Commissioner Tabasco. Here. Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Vice Chair Chadwell. Here. And Chair Whitcomb.
Here, thank you. Moving to item 3, minutes approval. The minutes of March 6, 2025 regular meeting have been delivered to the commission members and posted on the City Hall bulletin board. If there are no corrections or additions, a motion is in order to approve these minutes. Do I hear a motion?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Sylvester. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Chadwell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, moving on. Moving on to item 4, oral communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda. There will be an opportunity for the public during item 6.1 for comments specific to that item. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to make their comments. State law prohibits the commission from acting on non-agenda items. For those attending via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function or press *9 on the phone to make a comment on any item not on the agenda. The commission will now receive in-person comments first. There it, seeing none. Do we have any online comments? Seeing none again, we will move on and move to item 5, unfinished business. We'll first go with the Multicultural Festival Committee. The Multicultural Festival Committee will present an oral update. No action will be taken on this item.
That would be me.
Yes.
Well, the festival is completed. We went off without a hitch, no rain delays or anything like that. All of our performers showed up. There's a little bit of shuffling, but they all came, they all performed. The feedback was wonderful. People are excited about us doing it again. So we'll do it the same time next year.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Does any of the commissioners have any questions? Seeing none, do we have any public comment on this? Okay, seeing none, either on that either. Have to say it, I guess. Civic Participation Ad Hoc Committee, the Civic Participation Ad Hoc Committee will present an oral update. No action will be taken on this item.
And I think that will be given by me. We are really excited. Our little committee has been kicking off for a few meetings now. We spent some time working through what does it mean to be civically engaged and what our hoped for outcomes were. In that process, we've developed a list of several behavioral questions to ask community members. Paraphrasing very badly, like tell us about an experience you've had working with the city or asking the city for something. But there's a whole list that sort of gets at people's experiences about their biases, roadblocks they've had, great experiences they've had working with the city. So where we are now is compiling a list of community organizations we would like to talk to, and we need our fellow commissioners' help. We are building like a Google Sheet with organizations we can talk to, and we would love all of your input. Now, these can be organizations that have regular informal meetings, or they could be groups that may not meet on a regular basis, but may have a mailing list or some other way of staying together.
Thank you, Commissioner Sylvester. Does any of the commissioners have any questions for the ad hoc committee? Okay, seeing none, do we have any public comments in person or online? All right, seeing none, moving to item 5.3, check out a human ad hoc committee. The check out a human ad hoc committee will present an oral update. No action will be taken on this item.
Chair, I'll be presenting the update for the Check Out a Human Ad Hoc Committee. The kickoff meeting will take place with the library staff next Tuesday, April 8th. And the committee will have further updates at the next HRC meeting.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none. All right, to the meat of it all. Item 6, new business. Fiscal year 2025 to 2030 consolidated plan, fiscal year 25 to 26 annual action plan, and community development block grant and general fund public service funding recommendations for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. The commission will now hold a public hearing to review the fiscal year 2025 to 2030 consolidated plan, hear funding recommendations for fiscal year 2025 to 26 annual action plan, and make funding recommendations for city council consideration. Action will be taken on this item. Housing Officer Alec Vivero will be presenting on this item. Housing Director Wayne Chun and Human Services Program Assistant Laura Salcido are available to answer any questions. Before we begin discussion of these items, the consideration of funding recommendations for the Community Services Agency requires members of the commission to recuse themselves due to conflicts of interest. Staff will explain how the commission discussion and the deliberations on this item will proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to give a brief explanation of how this recusal will work. And that recusal will take place after the staff presentation, so I'll give a little reminder then as well. Also for the benefit of any members of the public in the room. So due to conflict of interest, we will have commissioners recusing themselves specifically from funding recommendations related to the Community Services Agency. During the discussion and vote on the Community Services Agency funding, those commissioners cannot be in the room or participate in the discussion. They will participate in the discussion related to the remainder of the recommendations. So what will happen is when it's time to begin discussion following the staff presentation, the two commissioners will read their recusal statements and leave the room. After that, we will take any commission questions related only to the CSA funding recommendations while those two commissioners are recused so that they can completely and fully participate in the overall discussion. We're going to limit our questions to those specific recommendations. Following questions, the chair will open the public hearing. There'll be an opportunity for public comment on specifically the CSA funding recommendations while those commissioners are removed from the room. We'll close public comment on those recommendations, and then deliberation and voting again specifically for those recommendations will take place. After that, the two commissioners will return to the room and will continue the remainder of the discussion about the 5-year consolidated plan. So those are the goals for the program over the next 5 years, as well as the remainder, the rest of the funding recommendations, everything except CSA. And that will allow the commissioners to fully participate. So also public comment for all non-CSA items will happen in that order of discussion after the commissioners return to the room. So just for those who are here, that second opportunity for public comment will be where most of you will likely be for public comment, and we'll try and prompt that as we move through the discussion today. So before we move to the staff presentation, are there any questions about that process from the commission? Okay, and I'll hand it over to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, commissioners. It's good to see you all again. I hope you're doing well. My name is Alec and I am a housing officer with the city's Affordable Housing Division. I am joined by Gianna Talavera, Senior Housing Officer, Wayne Chen, Housing Director, and Laura Salcido, the Human Services Program Assistant, who is attending virtually. Today, I will be giving you an update on the fiscal year 2025 through 2030 consolidated plan, 2025 through 2026 annual action plan, and the grant funding recommendations. Staff would like to request your feedback on the recommended priority needs for the 2025 through 30 consolidated plans and 2025 through 26 annual action plan. In addition, staff will present the funding recommendations for the use of federal grant funding and city general funds. Next. As a quick refresher, the city is currently in the process of developing its next 5-year consolidated plan, which is a document that outlines housing needs, barriers to affordable housing, and includes a strategic plan with priority needs and goals to assist low and moderate income households. During the 5-year consolidated plan cycle, the city also prepares a 1-year annual action plan that serves to implement specific projects and activities to address the priority needs identified in the consolidated plan. Both the consolidated plan and annual action plan are required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, in order to receive federal grant funding. Next. The CDBG program provides funds to help address community development needs. A maximum of 15% can be used for public service activities, such as services for persons experiencing homelessness, seniors, and survivors of domestic violence. A maximum of 20% can be used for program administration. The remaining funds can be used for other eligible activities such as capital projects, including the rehabilitation of affordable housing and minor home repairs for low and moderate income homeowners, or economic development activities, including assistance for small businesses. Next. The Home Program provides funding to help fund the development of affordable housing and related programs. Home funding only allows a maximum of 10% to be used for program administration, with the remaining amount used for eligible activities such as site acquisition, construction and rehabilitation of affordable housing, and home buyer assistance. The city's 2025 through 30 consolidated plan will guide housing and community development efforts funded with CDBG and Home from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2030. The city partnered with Santa Clara County and other participating jurisdictions in the county to develop each jurisdiction's respective consolidated plan through a regional process, while also ensuring that local priorities and needs were properly identified and incorporated into the city's consolidated plan. The plan contains the city's priority needs, which are key housing and community development issues identified through data analysis and public input, which is discussed in the next slide. A needs assessment and housing market analysis examined U.S. Census data and found that 1/3 of households in the city are low to moderate income. In addition, there are many low to moderate income households that are cost burdened and overcrowded, while median home values and rents continue to increase. Community and stakeholder engagement events held in the city and also around the county, including public workshops, stakeholder meetings, pop-up events, and a survey, found that residents need affordable rental housing and rental assistance, and more services are needed to support the low and moderate income population. Input was also gathered from other city departments to identify areas of alignment between city projects and HUD requirements. And there are opportunities for coordination, including public services related to homelessness, infrastructure projects, and support for economic development. Next. This data collection and analysis resulted in staff's recommendation for the following 5 priority needs to be included in the 2025 through 30 consolidated plan. These priority needs are: number 1, increase affordable housing through the development of new units and rehabilitation of existing units. This includes, but is not limited to, supporting new construction, housing acquisition and preservation, and partnering with nonprofits to provide rental and home ownership opportunities. Number 2, respond to homelessness through a range of programs, including but not limited to assistance for those experiencing or at risk of homelessness through supportive services and homelessness prevention. Number 3, support public services that enhance health, safety, and well-being of populations in need, including but not limited to senior services, services for victims of domestic violence, and health services. Number 4, promote economic vitality through job creation, workforce development, job training, and small business assistance. And number 5, enhance public infrastructure by installing new or rehabilitating end-of-life public infrastructure, including but not limited to enhancements to safety, mobility, and accessibility. Next slide. The fiscal year 2025-26 annual action plan is July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, which is the first year of the new consolidated plan. The budget for the action plan consists of annual entitlement funding, anticipated program income, and prior year unexpended resources. The city is currently working off of funding estimates, as HUD has not yet released the final CDBG and home entitlement allocations, but it is anticipated that these will be announced in mid-May. If the final allocations differ from the estimates, staff will adjust the public service funding recommendations using the capped proportion funding strategy. Funding awarded through the direct allocation process and funding for program administration will be adjusted based on the amount of available funding. The capped proportion funding strategy and direct allocation process will be discussed later in the presentation. Next slide. Funding for public services is being awarded through a competitive notice of funding availability, or NOFA, which opened on December 6th and closed on January 10th. The NOFA process operates on a 2-year cycle covering both fiscal year 2025-26 and 2026-27. For year 1 in the cycle, there's an estimated amount of $233,000 in CDBG funds available for public services. To supplement these funds, the city also makes $171,000 in city general funds available to support human services, educational, cultural, arts, and other programs not eligible for federal funds. Next. In order to receive CDBG funds, applicants must meet one of the 3 CDBG national objectives established by HUD, which are to benefit low and moderate income persons, aid in the prevention or elimination of slums and blight, or meet a HUD-defined urgent need. As was discussed at the HRC meeting in December, applicants must also meet at least one of the 3 priority needs from the city's prior 2020 through 2025 consolidated plan, which were to increase affordable housing, support programs to address homelessness, and support public services for low to moderate income households and special needs populations. This was due to the new consolidated plan still being drafted, and therefore the new priority needs were not yet determined. To receive general fund public service grant funding, applicants must meet the criteria per Council Policy A8 through programs that provide human services, educational, cultural, arts, and other programs not eligible for federal funds. These programs must also align with and further the goals and strategies in the city's consolidated plan. Next. Applicants were evaluated based on key parameters, including the completeness of their application, how the program addresses the community needs in the 5-year consolidated plan, their organizational capacity to carry out the program in an effective manner, and their ability to provide adequate financial oversight of the funds. Additional criteria were also considered, including how much they requested, their program budgeting goals, and if applicable, previously awarded funds and past performance. The city received many applications through the NOFA process, which resulted in the funding being oversubscribed. Staff tried to incorporate feedback received from the HRC back in December to create an equitable funding strategy. Next. Once applications were determined to be eligible and fulfilled key criteria, funding recommendations were determined using what we are calling the capped proportion formula, which calculates the average funding request and uses it as a cap or maximum funding request, and then awards funds proportionally. This funding strategy results in higher funding recommendations for more organizations and helps to reduce the impact of applications whose funding requests were outliers on the high end. In other words, it helps to balance out higher and lower funding requests in an equitable manner. Staff included a summary of each application as attachment 2 and the calculations for the funding recommendations as attachment 3. Next. Once the capped proportion formula is applied to the recommended CDBG applications, it results in the following grant funding recommendations. For CDBG applications, the maximum award was $27,859.87, and 6 out of the 11 applicants are recommended to receive at least 80% of their requested amount. Next. The General Fund of Public Services funding was largely oversubscribed, with requests being over 3 times the amount of the available funding. Funding recommendations were calculated using the capped proportion formula, and the maximum award amount was $18,489.54. Next. Non-public service projects are awarded through a direct allocation process, as was discussed at the HRC meeting in December. These projects include an emergency home repair program for low and moderate income Mountain View homeowners, a micro enterprise assistance program that will assist low and moderate income childcare service providers in the city to develop their businesses, ADA improvements for public facilities and infrastructure to increase accessibility for persons with disabilities, and eligible projects in the city's affordable housing pipeline. Next. Moving forward, the recommendations made by the HRC at today's meeting will be brought to the City Council at the meeting on May 13th. Between now and then, there will be a 30-day comment period for members of the public to provide their feedback on the drafts. The consolidated plan and annual action plan are typically due for submission to HUD by May 15th, but the city recently received guidance from HUD that this may be pushed to around mid-July due to delays in HUD releasing the final funding allocations. Next. So this brings us back to the 2 main questions for tonight's discussion. Does the HRC support staff's recommended 5 priority needs to guide future funding in the fiscal year 2025 through 2030 consolidated plan? And does the HRC support the CDBG and general fund public service funding recommendations presented by staff? Next. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you for your time, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. And the commissioners with conflicts of interest, please make their recusal statements.
Vice Chair Chadwell, I am recusing myself from this discussion of the Community Services Agency funding recommendation due to my position on the board of the Community Services Agency. I have not participated and will not be participating in the recommendation to the City Council regarding CSA funding in any way.
Commissioner Sylvester. I am recusing myself from the discussion of the Community Services Agency funding recommendations due to my position on the board of the Community Services Agency. I have not participated and will not be participating in the recommendation to the City Council regarding CSA funding in any way.
Commissioners, and we will see y'all shortly. The commission will now proceed with discussion of the Community Services Agency funding recommendations. All funding recommendations will be discussed when Vice Chair Chadwell and Commissioner Sylvester return. Does any member of the commission have any questions specifically to the Community Services Agency funding recommendations? I'll start off with a question. Would you like to? Sure. You. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Tom. Thank you for attending. If CDBG or general fund award comes in below projected levels, what would CSA's contingency plan be?
It's funny you should ask that because I actually talked to the folks that work in finance at CSA today and asked them specifically, what would we be looking at if the funding recommendations came in below? We would obviously have to juggle and make some changes. CDBG is one of the few forms of funding that comes to us that can be used specifically for staffing and can be used specifically for priorities related to staffing. So in other words, if there are needs that come into one of our case managers, then CDBG funds can be used for that. But we would, of course, pivot. But the problem is that right now, pivoting is our primary word. As we all know, there has been incredible amount of government funding from the federal government that has been called into question. We've already learned that the funding from the Emergency Food and Shelter Program is on hold, and we cannot get that for food of all things, and that's $40,000. We've been told to beware of additional funding cuts coming from the county. And then just yesterday, and I think if you have not read this, and many people may not know this already, the LIHEAP program, which is money that comes from the federal government so that we can help to pay people's utility assistance. We just learned that the entire staff in Washington of the LIHEAP program was fired yesterday. We have no idea what that is. So I'm sorry to go on about this, and I will wrap up very quickly by just saying, pivot. We will have to pivot, and we will do the pivoting the best we can. I know that there are a lot of other programs in this room, all of whom do great work out into the community. But I think that it's a situation where we are in dire times, and any amount of funding that we can get, we are grateful for, but we will do what we can if there are reductions in any way and in any of our programs.
Yep. Commissioner McDonald?
What is the number of clients that you served this year as opposed to last year?
The numbers are holding relatively steady. We had a high in COVID. They came down, but they did not come down to the same percentage that we saw come that we would have expected. The funding went down faster than the clients. And we know that that's primarily because we're still in COVID recovery, whether we like to think in those terms or not, 5 years later. So the numbers have come down slightly, but the numbers that we're expecting to serve have remained relatively stable through these programs. And that includes money for food, money for that obviously is all in question right now. Yeah, and I mean, if it, I know it's not specifically to CSA funding, but I think I speak for all of the agencies when we hope that we can get good news from the federal government on the CDBG funds, because we still don't know, according to your staff report, we still don't know how much that's going to end up being.
This is an off-the-wall question, but I've been watching the news all day today about how tariffs are hitting our economy and so on. Do you foresee any significant impact that the tariffs will have on your operation?
Full disclosure, I'm not an economist. I wish I was. But no, I think that even the administration themselves say that there will be short-term pain in these tariffs for what they see as long-term gain. I think that short-term gain, we all know in this room that short-term gain or short-term pain is usually on the backs of people we serve. And so I would be, I feel very confident to say that if this tariff stuff plays out the way that it does, it's going to be more than people's 401ks that's been talked about all day. We're talking about working people living paycheck to paycheck and
don't have 401ks.
Exactly. The people who are never mentioned in all of this. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald. Any other questions from the commission? Okay. Seeing none, I will now open the public hearing to the Community Service Agency funding recommendations. There will be an opportunity to comment on the rest of the funding recommendations when Commissioners Chadwell and Sylvester return. Would any member of the public like to comment on the CSA funding recommendations? If so, please submit a blue speaker card to staff. If you have not already done so, noting that you would like to speak to the CSA recommendation, or click the raised hand button in Zoom or press *9 on the phone. Do we have any blue cards? Okay, and none on virtually either. Seeing none for either in person or virtually. Thank you. I will close the public hearing and bring it back to commission for deliberation and action on the Community Services Agency funding recommendations only. A motion is required to take action on this item. Is there any motion for what's being proposed to be allotted? Do we accept staff recommendation on what they allotted for CSA?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve on based on the staff recommendations, CSA.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. And we will do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Lester? Aye. Commissioner McDonald? Commissioner McDonald? How do you vote?
Sorry, yeah, yes.
Okay, no worries, thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Webb?
Yes.
And Chair Whitmore?
Yes. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you so much, Tom, for being here and for all the work you and your staff do.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners Chadwell and Sylvester may now return to the council chamber, well, to our meeting chamber.
That's both from last year.
Welcome back, commissioners.
you.
All right. The commission will now discuss and act on the remainder of the public services funding and capital projects funding recommendations. Do any of the commissioners have any questions about the consolidated plan or the remaining funding recommendations? And I did have a quick questions for staff before we continue forward. The question is just to clarify what the HRC's role in all of this is. We do have new commissioners here, so kind of want to introduce them into this process. I know we're not meant to be experts in the entire process, but we are kind of the advocates for the community, and it'd be helpful to know what our directive is.
Absolutely, yes, I can answer that question. So the funds, federal funds are provided to the city to help those in need. And the best way to allocate those funds properly to fulfill that purpose is to involve members of the public, being yourselves and anyone else who is wanting to provide feedback. This feedback is crucial to ensuring that we are using funds in the right way and really focusing on areas where there's the most need. So it's not staff's decision necessarily where these funds go. It's everybody's decision.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question for,
Vice Chair Chadwell?
question for staff. I saw in the report that part of the reason for these funds being oversubscribed is new applicants that have not applied before. Could you please give us a quick rundown of which programs are new?
Absolutely. So, the ones with an asterisk near the end are.
Got it. Thank you for that. Okay. And have any of these programs requested funding under a different name before?
Not that we're aware of.
I did have a question. What was the rationale between using a cap proportional formula versus using a needs-based or outcomes-based formula? Since we knew from like the first attachment that there is way more needs that are being increased since the last allotment of the CDBG fund.
Yeah, so when we were evaluating the applications, the criteria that we discussed in the presentation, it was found that everybody has great programs and everybody is providing essential services. So when everybody is performing at such a high level, how do you then decide who should be awarded and who shouldn't be awarded? So in that sense, and based on conversations at the December HRC meeting, we tried to find a method that was the most equitable. One that's going to try and give everybody a slice of the pie instead of giving larger pieces of some and cutting out others.
Thank you.
I could just add on to what Alec was saying, which is exactly right. In addition, as we were reviewing all the applications, not all the services are the same. Some are perhaps easier to administer and serve a greater number of folks, and other services are just much more time intensive and require a lot of engagement. It's a much higher touch, such as addressing eviction prevention, for example. So the volume is important. It was one of the factors that was reviewed, but the sheer output wasn't necessarily a determining factor.
Thank you. Thank you. And Commissioner Sylvester.
You mentioned in the report that staff is connecting with applicants about the potential impacts of slight or significant reductions. When is that going to happen, and have you heard back at all yet?
So we've been able to get in contact with majority of the applicants.
Great.
While it's not ideal to not receive the full amount of funds requested, it is the consensus seemingly that any funding is better than no funding. Staff acknowledges this and is willing to work with the organizations. And perhaps, you know, if they want to reduce their annual goal, to meet the amount of funding that they were awarded. Other ways like that, we can collaborate and work together to find something that works for everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb.
So I see you have the United Effort Organization on both. If you move them to the second one, to the general fund. Is it possible to get us a number that they would have received if they were eligible for the funding recommendation for the CDBG?
I do not have that number off the top of my head, but I can certainly make that calculation.
While we're here, or we have to go out back?
I would need to sit for a moment and crunch some numbers, but so perhaps it's better if I get back to you.
Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Lister.
Just to follow on to staff's point about the number of clients being served not being necessarily a measure of impact. Have you looked at other impact measurements like hours served, or is there another metric that could be objective and applied?
The application just called for sort of clients to be served. It didn't request another sort of metric, so we used the information that was provided. That could
Just
be
wondering if there-
something that we could consider in a future round if that's of
Yeah.
interest to the HRC.
I think that would be really interesting to think of it in even just hours or something like that. Thank you.
Commissioner Webb.
So follow up with that, is there like a standard measurement that is used within the county, the different cities, and you guys talk to the other cities about how they're doing their calculations for this type of funding, or is this we just want to see if there's something that's consistent with other ones, like apple to apple, or it's just something that.
We did not communicate with other jurisdictions about their methodology for determining their awards. It is really a case by case case by case basis in terms of what cities typically do. It's highly dependent on the number of applications received. Every jurisdiction has different levels of funding. There's not necessarily a blanket.
So I understand what you're saying in that case, but at that core, it's still people served, hours served, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So that's why I was asking if you're talking to local jurisdictions to see how they're doing things, then that can kind of help us give like a general baseline, say, okay, we're doing it the right way versus we're not doing it, everyone else is doing it this way. Why are we doing it this way?
The methodology that we have is consistent with the entitlement jurisdictions. HUD requires the jurisdictions to stipulate whether the goal is persons or say households. So those are sort of defined by HUD. And most of the jurisdictions will typically have an applicant specify what the goal outcome is. Again, this is something that perhaps we can take a look at in the next funding round. But to our knowledge, jurisdictions are not usually coming up with another methodology that is not stipulated by HUD.
Thanks. Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry, Commissioner McDonald.
Page 14 has two parts. The bottom part talks about the applicants and the program activities and the amount requested in the CDBG. CDBG and the recommendations. And what I'm curious about is how many people these programs actually deal with. Because the dollar amount doesn't tell me that. Is there an easy way for you to let
If I can
us
just
know about that?
add on to that, I remember reading in the report that the cost per participant kind of varies depending on the program. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mhm. And also in the attachment, which we can actually go through right now, just sort of read off. It does provide, I believe, the goals that are being sought here. Let me just take a look here.
That is correct, yes. Attachment 2, organization, mission, and program summaries provides a summary of the application for each applicant, as well as contains a table at the top of summary. Containing information about if they were funded previously, what their prior goals and accomplishments were, as well as what their proposed goal is for the next fiscal year.
I may add to that, Commissioners, attachment 2 is 57 pages long and was included in your materials that were sent to you. It's not in that packet in front of you for those who are looking for.
If it's helpful, we can go through them right now, if it's useful, just on each one, but you can let us know of the ones that Commissioner McDonald references on page 14.
I think that's okay for right now. I did just want to ask a clarifying question. So earlier it was mentioned that like not all funds, we're not certain if we were going to receive all the funding for CDBG funds. Does the city have some sort of plan in order in case the federal CDBG or home allocations is fewer than what is estimated?
We're anticipating some amount. We don't know what that is. We don't have another budget other than the separate existing pool of the general funding of $171,000 at this time. So I believe we'll find out what it is after the council meeting. So at this time, there isn't a funding source. Now, part of HRC's deliberation and a recommendation to the council might be a recommendation that if the funding levels are extremely low or some such, to perhaps consider a funding source for that to help make it up in whole.
Thank you. Any more questions from the commissioners before we move to public comment?
I have a quick question. On page 5, it talks about the findings from local and regional feedback and input, which thank you very much for including, by the way. I appreciate that context. And just to get at the Mountain View specific perspective, it says that the top needs identified by survey respondents in Mountain View was affordable childcare and support for small businesses. It's not clear to me that any of these programs, except maybe 1 or 2, address those goals. And I was wondering how the city can take that feedback and, will this change your approach to the next year of soliciting applications, or basically what is the city planning to do with that feedback?
Absolutely. So all the feedback that we received fed into the priority needs. So those are going to be contained within the new consolidated plan. Those priority needs are going to be the focal point of the next funding cycle. So if you may recall, during this funding cycle, we used our needs from the past consolidated plan because these our needs weren't ready yet. Right. But now that we are approaching the point where they are ready during the next funding cycle, the 5 that we mentioned today will be the focal points, and staff will certainly look for programs that accomplish those needs.
Okay, and would those goals fall under shoring up public services, or I'm just wondering which of the 5 priorities would those fall under?
Yeah, it depends on the specific type of activity. So for example, we discussed one of the direct allocation projects was to provide technical assistance to small businesses that provide childcare. So in that sense, that falls under like the economic development piece. So that would be priority need number 4.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, staff, and thank you, commissioners, for your questions. I'm now going to move it to public comment. Would any member of the public like to comment on the consolidated plan or funding recommendations? If so, please submit a blue speaker card to staff if you have not already done so, noting that you would like to speak. Or please click the raise hand button on Zoom or press *9 on your phone if you have any blue cards. No? Okay, this is gonna be a quick meeting. Oh, do we have one?
Isn't there?
All right.
May I approach?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Can't stop me, I'm a lawyer.
And-
Sorry.
So you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Georgia Basil, Directing Attorney of Senior Adults Legal Assistance SALA. We provide free legal services to Mountain View residents 62 or older, targeting clients that are low income or at risk of abuse or loss of independence. 88% of the Mountain View seniors we served last year were very low income, and 67% were 75 or older, and 30% had a disability. We provide our services locally at appointments at Mountain View Senior Center every month and by phone for clients that cannot leave their homes or those that have emergencies. We are a current public service grantee, and we thank you so much for your support. We are recommended for funding, albeit at a reduced level, to serve our clients next year. We'd be very happy to receive the staff recommended amount. We address a range of legal matters impacting our clients, such as legal problems involving the public benefits, Social Security, Medicare, and Medi-Cal that they rely on to meet basic needs. We help clients worried about eviction, clients needing reasonable accommodations in their housing due to disability, or clients whose housing is otherwise in jeopardy. We help clients do basic legal planning for the future to help them age in place by appointing someone to make decisions when they can't do so through powers of attorney. And unfortunately, we continue to see many clients that are victims of financial and physical abuse, usually by someone they know or someone living in their home, such as an adult child, grandchild, neighbors, even tenants renting out rooms in their homes. And we are attorneys. We go to court, we get domestic violence restraining orders for people under 65 and elder abuse restraining orders to remove abusers from their homes if they're 65 or older. We can't charge fees for our services, but we can't do fee generating cases. We rely heavily upon grants to deliver our services. For the past 2 years, we did receive over $100,000 in each year through COVID-related funding to provide expanded services to Mountain View residents. So we were able to serve 49 clients last year with that additional funding. That funding ended in September, but the need continues. And especially with the cutbacks you're seeing now at Social Security, with clients having trouble navigating the systems, which is what we help them with. And also with pay reductions in Older Americans Act funding, which is our primary fund. So your funding is needed more now than ever, and we really do sincerely thank you for all of your support. And we hope you will support our recommendation from the staff for this coming year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This is Milton Cadena.
Thank you. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Milton Cadena, Program Director for Senior Charities. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in this commission and also to express my gratitude to the City of Mountain View for the past support and hopefully for this new application. The Ombudsman Program serves an advocate for some of the most vulnerable members of our community, especially those living in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Our mission is to uphold their dignity, rights, and well-being, ensuring they receive the quality of care that they deserve. This is a unique and essential service in Santa Clara County. No other program has 24/7 access to residents in long-term care facilities. By law, every facility is required to have a display of our contact information, making it easier for residents and their families to reach us. The Ombudsman Program is federally and state mandated under the Older Americans Act to investigate and resolve complaints related to quality of care, abuse, and resident rights. We act as a vital safety net, helping prevent wrongful evictions, addressing neglect and abuse, and ensuring that facilities provide a safe and respectful environment. Many residents do not choose to live in long-term care facilities. It is often their only option. These facilities become their homes, yet some are being unfairly discharged due to financial reasons or family conflicts. If notified in time, our team of ombudsman can intervene and help prevent residents to stay in their homes. Our services include investigating elder abuse and resolving complaints, mediating disputes between residents and facilities, providing referrals to essential resources, witnessing advanced healthcare directives, conducting training for facility staff on abuse recognition and mandated reported. We work closely with other renowned public and community service organizations like legal assistance, senior adult legal assistance, adult protective services, licensing, and others. For the City of Mountain View, we serve 3 skilled nursing facilities and 4 RCFEs. We serve a total combined of 339 beds in the city of Mountain View. This year, we're reapplying, and we hope to serve 48 clients.
Thank you so much.
Melissa Lukin.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Melissa Lucan. I'm the Executive Director of Rebuilding Together Peninsula. First, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on this commission and to do this work, and to the staff. It's been such a pleasure to work with. It's particularly important in this particular period of time to acknowledge the democratic process. Thank you. Our mission is to repair homes, revitalize communities, and rebuild lives. And in real terms, that means that we make the difference in terms of homeowners being able to live in a safe and healthy home and also afford groceries. Broadly, it enables us to ensure that those with disabilities and the elderly primarily are able to preserve their affordable homes, to prevent displacement, and to maintain the diverse fabric of the community. For over 35 years, we've been doing this work, and in this current year, which we were grateful to have received additional funding last year to increase the caps of funding that we were enabled to serve the homeowners with. We have the anticipation of reaching our goals for this coming year, despite the delays in contracting. 100% were very low or extremely low. 73% identified as having a senior in the home, and upwards of 75% had someone with a disability. When we surveyed them, 100% said they felt safer after the work was done. 85% said that they felt reduced stress as a result of their homes, and greater pride as well. The forecast for this year is to complete our 12 projects. And I'll give you just one example of a homeowner whose home we served here in Mountain View recently, a 75-year-old gentleman at the Space Parkway, whose annual income is $22,000 per year. He was referred to us by a social worker, actually. He's in really good shape, actually, for his age, I hear. And he likes to talk. He has a side hustle at selling things at the flea market to make a little bit of some funding for himself. And the mobile home is from 1970, and he's lived there since 1985. He couldn't express enough his profound gratitude. He said, "I can't stop admiring all the things that have been done. I always smile from the minute I open the door and turn on the light." So we did some flooring and some furnace repair. We nailed the trim on the bottom of his mobile home to keep vermin out. We installed a new doorknob so his door works, and other kinds of related repairs. So I just wanted to thank you very much for your support, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
Evelyn Brown.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about Parents Helping Parents and our mission to support families in Mountain View. For nearly 5 decades, Parents Helping Parents has been a beacon of hope for families of children with disabilities, primarily serving Santa Clara and San Mateo County since 1976. Our mission is simple yet profound: to ensure that children and adults with disabilities receive the support and services they need to reach their full potential. We provide vital resources, training, and one-on-one assistance, helping families navigate the complex landscape of care. With your support through this grant, we aim to extend our services to at least 125 families in Mountain View. These families are facing unprecedented challenges, and they need to know that they are not alone. Our offerings include support groups, training, and direct assistance, ensuring that every child has quicker access to care, fewer delays in receiving services, and the opportunity to thrive. Last year alone, Parents Helping Parents served over 6,200 families and professionals, impacting 260,000 individuals through our resource directory and our website. We offer a range of free services, including emotional support from trained staff and peer volunteers, weekly mental health sessions in both English and Spanish, and a unique parent advocacy program focused on all forms of disabilities. In fact, that program right now is actually in Sacramento lobbying for disability rights as we speak. By partnering with the city of Mountain View, we can strengthen our community and provide essential support to those who need it most. Together, we can empower families, improve systems of care, and ensure that every child has a chance to reach their full potential. Thank you for having me here today, and I too am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
I have a quick question. Thank you for that. You mentioned with the funding wanting to extend services to 125 families in Mountain View. What is your current scope of service in Mountain View?
It's at exactly 125.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 24 last year.
Okay.
It's,
So-
yeah.
So this would not represent like a big an expansion of the program.
No,
or continuing the level of service
Correct,
currently.
correct, because like, if you think about it, most of the situations are very specific, right? So we help children with, families advocating for their IEPs in schools. It could be a child needs a wheelchair, we help them figure out how to get the resources to do that. Public services, and each family is pretty specific, so.
Thank you so much.
Next is Stephanie.
Hello, good.
Hello, Stephanie, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm here on behalf of Loaves and Fishes Family Kitchen. For over 45 years, we have provided food to those in need. We are here on behalf of our Meals on Wheels program, which we inherited from the Health Trust in July. So we ourselves are new to this process as an organization, but the Health Trust has long ran the program. It's been very easy in Mountain View. And currently we are serving over 10,000 meals and 1,500 wellness checks a year to residents here in Mountain View. The program is dedicated to those who are low income. In fact, 94% of the people we serve are extremely low income and homebound due to illness or mobility issues. As the name suggests, Meals on Wheels brings food directly to the homes of those who cannot benefit from other meal programs at congregate serving sites or food banks. And with every meal delivery comes a wellness check. So a lot of these people are home and isolated, and sometimes just a basic conversation goes a long way, as does a nutritious, medically tailored meal. With the rising costs and diminishing funds available, I'm sure you can imagine that providing these meals is getting more expensive. A simple trip to the grocery store trying to find eggs, imagine doing that thousands of times over. So we appreciate the funding, and the need is rising for sure. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And thank you for your support.
Thank you so much. Oh, someone else is keeping time for me.
Was that 3 minutes?
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Next is Jared Backlund.
Hello, welcome. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. I am the CFO and board member for United Effort. Thank you for the time. Just like others here, we're incredibly grateful for any amount of funding. I want to talk a little bit about what we do. So United Effort works with our most vulnerable folks in our community, mostly with homeless folks experiencing homelessness. We last year helped over 600 folks apply for benefits. We help these folks who are tired, have mental health issues, navigate the very complicated systems times of these applications. And besides that, we're actually really good at getting people housed, particularly for the first time. So last year we helped house 69 people, about 13% of the 542 people that are homeless in Mountain View, with no full-time staff. We're all volunteer driven. We have 3 full-time case manager volunteers and another 3 that do it part-time. So this funding will be used to actually hire our first full-time case manager. Last year, we've always been volunteer run until last year. We hired 6 people that were previously had experienced homelessness to administer a program. On behalf of, what was it? Home Away. This year, this grant will help us bring on our first full-time staff and help us expand that services. We're seeing the supply of housing diminish. And so we're excited to kind of see the other places this funding is going. And, I'll tell a quick story. One of my clients, a guy named Mikey, had been homeless since he was 18. By the time we talked to him, he was 53. He moved into his first apartment about 2 years ago. Still slept in a tent for almost a year and a half, because it's a very, very different experience to go from living on the street. Another one of our clients, we moved into a van because that was where they were at and where they could get to. Commissioner Webb, I don't have access to the spreadsheet, but I am our CFO. To answer your question, I think it's a little over 15,000 if we had gone under their CD. Happy to answer any questions, but we really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And Danielle Starra.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is Danielle Starov. I'm the program director at Life Moves Mountain View, the interim supportive housing site located on Leghorn. Thank you so much for your consideration of our funding proposal. On any given night, our shelter serves 80 single adults, 8 couples, and 12 families. I want to let you know that our site is absolutely full right now. We cannot take in another human because all the rooms are full. What our ask is for the funding to help with having a housing specialist at our site for part-time purposes. We serve a lot of folks who are an aging adult population, and they have very unique needs in terms of housing, and it's often not as simple and cut and dry as just like, I'm gonna fill an application and get into a place. They have evictions on their records, they have healthcare needs and they can't access housing. So having a specialist available to us to support folks and coordinate getting them into housing would be really amazing for us. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What was she? What was her organization?
Life Moves. Life Moves.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I will now
Maybe,
close,
yes.
Online.
oh, we do have online public comment?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was so excited.
The first one is Mary Gloner.
Hi, Mary, you will have 3 minutes.
It's not responding to my clip.
All right.
There we go.
Good evening, commissioners and HRC staff. My name is Mary Gloner. My pronouns are she, her. I'm speaking on behalf of Cassie Counseling and Support Services for Youth as their interim executive director. Cassie partners with schools and districts to destigmatize mental health challenges and make supporting students' social and emotional well-being the norm through tailored and accessible school-based therapy. Cassie also prides itself in equally caring for our therapists and strives to match them to the needs of our school partners, so Cassie is seamlessly integrated to their school's campus. Now, since Cassie's inception 15 years ago, we are so grateful to partner for the first time, so we're one of those asterisk organizations with the city of Mountain View, and your recommendation to award Cassie approximately $16,000 from the general funds. We understand that this is a challenging time for most municipalities and appreciate the city's investment not only in Cassie, but also our over 20 nonprofits who collectively address social issues that impact the mental well-being of young people. Cassie is a mental health safety net for nearly 2,400 Mountain View students through our public and private school partnerships. Mountain View Los Altos Unified High School District contracted with Cassie to exclusively offer comprehensive mental health support at all 3 high schools, including Mountain View and Alta Vista, providing the mental health support that CHAC has provided in the past. So that's why we're coming into the community. Cassie also partners with CanLab Schools, serving Mountain View students outside of the public school system. Since our proposal submission to the City of Mountain View, we are so pleased to share that we expect to continue providing services in this next academic year. So thank you for your continued commitment to youth mental well-being, and I'm here to address any questions.
Thank you. Any other?
I have a quick question.
Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mary. I have a quick question about your services, just to confirm that I'm understanding you correctly. Your program does not currently serve the MVWSD school district. Is that correct?
No, we do serve the Mountain View Los Altos Unified High School District. So we have a current contract with them to serve both at Mountain View and Alta Vista, as well as Los Altos. But we also are serving Khan Lab School, which is a private school in Mountain View.
Understood. I was asking specifically about the Mountain View Wisman School District, which would be the middle school and elementary schools.
Oh, we're not yet in those districts, but in others schools, districts, we do have a history of already serving elementary and middle school. And so if that is something that the community or the district is interested, we'd be happy to entertain.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we have Madeline Musante.
Yes, hello, this is Madeline Musante, and I'm the Associate Director of Development for Community Legal Services in East Palo Alto. I want to thank the council for recommending that we be funded this year. We're delighted to be able to continue our partnership with the City of Mountain View. Community Legal Services in East Palo Alto was founded in 2002 by and for the community to address the lack of access to justice services and to address other issues such as rising housing prices and the displacement crisis. Today, we're proud to serve residents across San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. Our mission is to provide transformative legal services that enable diverse low-income communities to achieve secure and thriving futures. In Mountain View, especially where we've seen much larger issues around homelessness and evictions, particularly for non-payment of rent. And we're very grateful to be able to serve residents of the community in seeking justice in their housing cases. I'm happy to answer any of the questions the commission may have, and thank you again.
Thank you, Madeline. Any questions from the commission? Joe?
How many clients do you serve in the area that you serve?
Yeah, so across all of our geographic areas in 2024, we served about 6,000 individuals. In Mountain View, and specifically last year, we served 139 families. Majority of those were for housing issues around evictions, particularly for non-payment of rent, since housing prices have gone up so much. So we did a lot of work helping folks find, support, whether it be safety net services that provided rent payments for folks that were behind on rent, and food banks and other things, and other services that would leave them with more money to pay their rent.
And how many staff do you have that have helped 6,000 people in a year?
Yeah, so we only have 30 staff, but a lot of our clients have large households, so we count every person that lives within the house as a person served, especially if you're preventing an eviction. So the most families that come to us, they have anywhere from 3 to 8 people living within their home. So, for example, the 139 Mountain View cases was actually almost, I just looked it up, was represented 400 people because of all the different household members. And our cases also take different lengths of time. Like folks were saying earlier, different services require different numbers of hours. So some eviction cases, it might be as simple as going to the landlord and pointing out that their eviction notice is actually illegal for some reason, like they didn't have a valid reason to evict the person, writing an and it might settle before that, and others it might go all the way to representing the person in civil court.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald. Thank you, Madeline, for your time.
Yeah, thank you again.
Next, we have a comment. It's labeled PS internal account.
You have 3 minutes. Hello, are you there?
Muted.
You're muted. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
There
Can
you
you
go.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Quickly, I'm Carol Kahn, Executive Director of Project Sentinel. We're a housing nonprofit in operation almost 50 years now. Our agency's mission is to promote fairness and equality in housing for all people and contribute to increasing, through conflict resolution, greater understanding and peaceable relationships between housing providers and residents. Our overarching mission is to keep people stably housed, to prevent eviction, displacement, and homelessness. We're grateful to the City of Mountain View for a longstanding partnership of 17 years, providing both fair housing and tenant landlord mediation services to help quell the rate of eviction and displacement. And we are also grateful for any amount of funding that may be available to us this next coming year. We have already been in the fight to restore DOJ cuts to our HUD fair housing funds, which are frankly the lifeblood of fair housing organizations, including Project Sentinel. Specifically regarding fair housing activities, which help to remove discriminatory barriers and practices in housing. We investigate discrimination complaints, administer systemic audits to test for discriminatory behavior, conduct community outreach and education, and seek to redress for victims of discrimination enforcement through state and federal fair housing laws. Community outreach seeks to inform the residents of Mountain View of what fair housing is and to encourage those of a protected class to report suspected violations. Education and training is also offered to housing providers. So we also work with landlords so that they can understand their fair housing obligations and avoid non-compliance. These services help ensure stable, balanced communities and also help the City of Mountain View meet its HUD requirements to affirmatively further fair housing. Examples of fair housing scenarios handled by our agency include a family being denied housing because they have children, a veteran with a disability being denied an accommodation, or a domestic abuse survivor being illegally evicted because of the actions of the abuser. For the fiscal year to come, 25-26, we have proposed a suite of fair housing activities, which includes resolving illegal housing discrimination by providing proactive community education, by investigating alleged violations of the fair housing laws. Fair housing education will be provided by presentations to associations of housing providers and to members of protected classes under the law, along with related social service agency providers. The public at large will be provided educational literature and exposure to fair housing information via social media or website of materials, videos that we have. And services will address the renter as well as the owner occupied.
Thank you so much. That's time.
Okay, thank you.
I did have a question for staff. For Project Sentinel, how do they fit into the recommendation process?
So Project Sentinel is not actually a part of this process that we're here for tonight. They are automatically awarded an allocation from general fund as a part of the city's annual budget.
Thank you so much for the clarification. All right, any more speakers online?
Yes, we have Sherry Burns.
Hi, Sherry, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you. Sherry Burns, Executive Director at Silicon Valley Independent Living Center, or SVILC for short. We are a nonprofit that's been providing services and support and advocacy for people with all types of disabilities and of all ages and backgrounds who live or work in Santa Clara County since 1976. And of the more than 12 services that SVILC provides to disabled Santa Clara County residents, housing assistance is by far the most requested, with over 74% requesting this service. And we serve over 1,000 consumers directly each year. Without subsidized housing options and housing assistance programs like SVILC's housing program for persons with disabilities, there will be more homelessness and at-risk seniors among our residents of the city of Mountain View. And our project is unique in that it's the only housing and advocacy service of its kind in the county, serving the needs of persons with disabilities of all ages and backgrounds who choose to live independently in the community. There are other organizations that provide some housing counseling assistance and emergency rental funds for very low-income residents, but only SVILC delivers these services to people of any age and with any type of disability under peer-based services. So the majority of our service providers have a disability themselves. They have lived experience. The services that we provide for housing counseling include an understanding of your universal housing design features, room modifications for improved accessibility, adaptive equipment and devices that increase one's personal independence, and the community resources for obtaining these improvements or items. Our project will annually assist 38 low-income, Mountain View residents with disabilities, including seniors with disabling conditions. This will help them learn how to locate affordable, accessible, community-based housing in which to transition from homelessness, nursing facilities, or unstable temporary housing. And I want to thank the staff and the commissioners and the city council for your ongoing support of this program to provide services and housing assistance to Mountain View residents with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more public comments? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming and speaking at today's commission. I honestly appreciate all of you. I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the commission deliberation and action. A motion is required to take action on this item. Do I hear a motion? We are making a motion if we can bring up the questions that are being passed at the commission, please. That's. So tonight's discussion is, does the HRC support staff's recommended 5 priority needs to guide the future funding of year 2025 to 2030 consolidated plan? And the second question being, does the HRC support the CDBG and the general fund public service funding recommendation presented by staff? Thank you.
So I have a question.
Commissioner Whip.
How strict with the funding amount? Can we make recommendations on the funding here, or how does that work?
Correct me if I'm wrong, staff, so they are very constricted based off the allotted amount that we are able to work with. So, I think at most what we can propose as a commission is to make a recommendation to council that if the CDBG funds aren't completely provided by HUD, that council find ways to provide that funding for them. I think that's at most, staff.
That's certainly a recommendation that HRC can make to the council. I think if there were modifications to the dollar amounts themselves, that is really tied to a methodology. So I think if there were a desire to change the dollar amount, it would also be helpful to know how to modify the methodology as well.
So in the past, we were able to make modifications to the numbers. And I know it's one where we spent many hours trying to figure this out. Maybe this is why the allocation numbers have come up, the calculation. But yeah, some of these, I feel that if we don't hear the people speak, I can't in strict confidence say this is the amount that they actually should get versus what another organization that I've actually heard and I understand what they're doing in our community that they deserve. Some of these I say straight away, yeah, they get the amount that they're asking for or the amount that you guys have calculated. And we have no flexibility on that based on what I'm just hearing right now.
I think.
And wait, let me tell you, and if this is supposed to be feedback from the community, which we are members of, these funds are helping the people that are living in our community. And if I feel that as a body, if our body feels that we should be giving more towards an example of more towards an organization that supports public housing versus an organization that does legal aid, that just should be something that we should be able to discuss as a body. And we're not able to do that based on these restrictions.
HRC could provide a range of recommendations. I think the chair was offering maybe something that we mentioned earlier in the presentation. But if there is another methodology or another amount, the HRC can certainly discuss them. And what we would do is we would report it back to the city
So
council.
here's my issue. We're given a very strict timeline on this. So anything that we try and do, we can't go back and try and figure this out and come back next time like we've done in the past, where we've had meetings that go throughout the night, where we can kind of hash this out with the numbers. We don't have that kind of leeway. So this is where the problem is this year. I don't know what we can do this year, but I definitely want to take this concern back to city council for next time that we have to do this.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb, for the process feedback. I do have a question for you regarding, again, the process. So at the commission's request, this time staff did provide a substantive document that does explain what each program does and provides information about clients. Or was that not sufficient to satisfy this desire to want to know more about the programs?
The document is different from hearing from someone in person. And this is some type of feedback that we've given before. We would love people to come so we could hear what they have to say.
Thank you for the feedback, Commissioner Webb. We do invite the
Yeah, I
nonprofits,
understand.
and some are able to make it. And as you saw, we did see a letter from some folks who were unable to make it. So we do want to put that out there as well. And then finally, I do want to turn it back to staff because I think one of the questions that was asked before was about, the criteria for program funding, about, are these programs serving the community and in what respect? Because I think there's a performance aspect to the evaluation. Is that correct?
That's correct. ALEC provided a framework for the evaluation. Essentially, all of the applicants did score well, and therefore, we really kind of moved on to, well, how do we potentially fund as many applicants as possible and fund it at a higher amount rather than a lesser amount. We can provide a funding framework to try to have an equitable distribution, but again, this is something that HRC can comment on. Just regarding the process, it is very restricted. All the entitlement jurisdictions essentially have to live by the timing that HUD gives us, and there is not a lot of leeway because those are the requirements that HUD provides the entitlement jurisdictions. So that is pretty limited.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your question. Commissioner Sylvester.
I'll answer staff's question about the materials in the packet. I want to thank staff for providing those extensive materials about each applicant. I read them all and found them extremely helpful in these documents. Also made me feel connected more to the people who showed up and more to the organizations we're talking about tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment or motion? Chair?
Process question, and apologies if this was answered in any supplemental documents. For the amount requested is from all these programs, is that the original amount they requested, or was there any kind of back and forth with city where it's kind of, said, hey, change your application in this way, et cetera?
The original amount requested was the amount provided to the application.
Commissioner McDonald.
I understand that there are federal funds that CSA had asked for that total 140.
So we can't discuss CSA anymore because we have Commissioner DeRosa Sylvester and
I'm not asking about the amount, or anything. I just wondered whether that 140,000 was still in question.
no.
You've made a motion.
Yeah, we already made a motion to already recommend
Okay.
to move forward with that agenda
That's
item.
all I wanted to know.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, do I hear any motions? All right, I'll make one. So again, thank you everyone in attendance and thank you all to our CBOs for serving our Mountain View community. It's such a pleasure to have listened to y'all in some capacity, serve alongside y'all in whatever respect my commissioners and myself have worked with y'all. I do make a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the allotted amount of CDBG funds with the added caveat that if the full amount of CDBG funds aren't allotted to the CBOs that council find a way to fund the remaining amount. Right here, second. Thank you. And we will take, oh, yeah, Commissioner Lester, or, and we will take a roll call vote.
Commissioner,
Chair, I just want to make a clarification
Yes.
whether that includes the CDBG recommendations as well as the other
Yes.
funding recommendations as well.
Yes, thank you for the question.
and the consolidated.
And the consolidated.
Okay, for the motion to accept all the staff recommendations in the report, and to request the council find a way to back fund the CDBG funding recommendations if they're not fully allocated by the federal government. Commissioner Lester.
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald. Oh, Commissioner, yes. Commissioner Smith. Yes, thank you. Commissioner Sylvester. Yes. Commissioner Webb. Vice Chair Chadwell.
Sorry, just to make sure, the recommendation for backfill of this fund also accounts for the general fund.
So the general fund funding recommendations are already, they come
Oh.
out of our.
Right,
funding.
okay, I misunderstood that.
No, no.
Then, yes.
And Shepherd.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for attending tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a safe drive back home.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you so much.
See you, Wayne.
See you. Thank you.
Right, I was about to leave.
Thank you, staff, so much.
I'm out.
Yes,
Alex.
thank you, staff.
Wayne.
Okay.
We're almost done. We're gonna wrap up right.
Yeah, you guys are good. Thank you. She's just having a good time. Right now, right? I know, I get all the questions, like, how many contractions have you had? I'm like, I haven't had anything, and nothing, like,
Makes sense.
overall, other than the breach situation.
All right,
she's,
commissioners.
like, really chill.
Joan.
Joan, we're not done. Can we take a 5 minutes?
We're gonna finish up.
We're gonna wrap up right now.
We'll be like 2 minutes.
Who's getting you a water? I just said. I'm sorry, really?
She wanted to vote. She was like, "Meh, meh, 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 meh."
I thought she was leaving. See ya.
Oh, the baby's kicking. Yep, she was picking up a
All
lot.
right.
She liked it.
All right,
She liked it.
moving on, y'all. We are still in
Bring this
meeting.
meeting to order.
All right, yeah. All right.
We're still in the.
Thank you. all.
I mean, you can stay. We can hang out.
Meeting.
All right, moving on, commissioners, to item 7, commission staff comments, questions, and commission reports. No action will be taken on the questions raised by commission at this time. State law prohibits the commission from discussing or acting on substantive non-agenda items. Floor is open to the commissioners. Commissioner Sylvester.
I think you all know, but I'm throwing how shall we say, a large street party this weekend here in the city of Mountain View, and you are all welcome to attend. Details upon request, but Saturday, starting at 11 is the quick answer.
Thank you.
Take it offline if you want to know more and invite your friends.
Thank you, Commissioner Sylvester.
And it's going to be bigger. Since Trump really did hit.
All right, so we'll, I guess to keep the quorum. Thank you, Commissioner.
Street party.
Commissioner Lester.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank all of the commissioners, especially Commissioner Webb, for the amazing multicultural festival earlier this month. It's a really incredible, event that was put on, and it was larger, I think, in turnout than I remember it being last year, which was incredible to see. And yeah, I love that, you know, the plaza can be used in so many different ways to kind of bring people together. And yeah, thank you guys for all your work, and to city staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Lester. Commissioner Webb.
Can I add to that one? I'm gonna do a +1 on people showing up with babies and people showing up almost with babies.
She will run next year. How about that?
It was a lot of work, but it was definitely worth it. Excited about doing it next year and expanding it, making it even bigger and better. With some more diversity. So I'm already starting to look for different dance groups and letting them know that we're doing this again next year.
Nice.
So
It's gonna be bigger and better. Thank you,
Not
Commissioner.
a party, but.
I'll make it.
Commissioner Sylvester.
Just want to send well wishes to Commissioner Smith, who
Will
is due very, very soon, and we may not see her again for a little while.
Yes, and then I'll be half a person.
Oh, no.
We're back to one person, one.
Whatever you say.
Just good luck and best wishes, okay?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Whatever you say.
Any other comments? All right, Steph.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of comments. First of all, for the couple of you that have not yet filed, your Form 700 was due on the 1st. If you need assistance, you can contact the city clerk's office. You should have an email in your inbox. And if you need a reminder, help, please let me know after the meeting. Additionally, as Commissioner Sylvester mentioned earlier, for the Civic Participation Ad Hoc Committee, if you have meetings or groups that you would like to put forth for the committee to attend and ask questions about participation, please send them to me and I will add them to their spreadsheet. Thank you. And then just in terms of the remaining HRC meetings for this year for May and June, as you know, we typically have our work planning cycle, which will proceed as usual with the next meeting for presenting ideas for the work plan. And then June will be recommending the work plan to council. So just so you can start thinking about what your ideas might be prior to the next meeting. As always, I'm available to you if you want a workshop, talk things through, create a scope of work that might be feasible for the coming year, because we do have some carry forward projects in particular. Now, in addition to that, you will be receiving your multicultural engagement program update, which is an annual update that, as you know, is on your work plan. There will be a new item on your work plan next year. And related to that, you will be receiving the MVPD annual report in the next 2 meetings. I don't have the specific date yet. It'll depend on when the report is ready. But please anticipate that. So also plan for the next 2 meetings to be a little longer than they typically are, just because we'll have more agenda items than we usually do in May and June. With that said, that ends my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Do we have access to the spreadsheet of local organizations just to make sure I'm not suggesting something that's already on there?
You do not, because we can't have more than
Right.
three of y'all have
Okay.
access.
Okay, then I'll just, yeah.
Also, it's not created yet, so please just.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Principal Analyst Laurel James.
all
All
up
right.
here,
I have a question for Laurel.
Yes.
Did you get my 700?
We can connect after this meeting and we'll chat about it.
Hmm.
Can I talk to you after the meeting?
Yes.
And I will. Thank you, Joe.
Good. Because I had a heck of a time trying to get it sent.
I'm not gonna lie, I sent it, I checked everything, I was like, okay, I relaxed, and then they sent me an email saying you didn't send it, and I was like,
We'll talk about that offline.
it's all freaking out.
Thank you all so much. I just want to add a quick comment. I'm very appreciative of this commission. We got through the CDBG funding on a quick pace. So I thank you all for your participation and yes, your attentiveness to them. Welcome, Commissioner Lester. This is the commission. Now you handled your first CDBG fund, so congrats. Yeah, it's scary, right?
Next year.
And thank you to Commissioner Webb and to that committee for the multicultural festival. It was wonderful.
Right here. I have pictures I was gonna show. I sent some to you.
I will send them. I wanted to check to make sure they were from the festival before I sent them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And with that, I move to item 8, adjournment. Adjourn to the next regular meeting of the Human Relations Commission scheduled for May 1st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the Plaza Conference Room at Mountain View City Hall and virtually on Zoom. Thank you for attending.